Work show. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022, and we're live right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We're also broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. All right, the calling number is 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. If you have a question or comment. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is Brian Flores, a story that came out late Tuesday dealing with Brian Flores, former Miami Dolphins head coach. We know he's suing the NFL. He's alleging discrimination when it comes to not just him, but other African-American coaches being interviewed. Okay. And there he did an interview with BNC, the Black News Channel, that aired today. We're going to share an excerpt of that with you. But CNN has the story as well as Yahoo News. Brian Flores claims he was offered money to keep quiet after the firing. He claims he was offered money to keep quiet after being fired by the Miami Dolphins. And more and more information tends to come out like every other day or something like this in this story. And if the information that's coming out, if even just half the information that's coming out is true, it strengthens and Flores' case. Okay, even if just half information coming out is true, it strengthens his case. So we're going to talk about this. He says he declined to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, after being fired by the Miami Dolphins, and he says they wanted to keep him quiet. Okay, so we'll talk about that, and then I was on a panel discussion today for dealing with reparations for Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. We know we talked about this on yesterday's show. So the panel discussion went really well. We shared it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael, and my personal page, Michael Imhotep, my personal Facebook page. So it's there. You can watch it. And I was on with some brilliant people. Also, Yusef Bunji Shakur, and Dr. Cavell, I think it's Cavell Harland, and a number of good people. And the sisters, my sisters of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, did a great job. Let me see. We had Dr. Samuel Grant, Dr. Calvin Harvell, and Marnice Chris Jackson, and Ladidra Wilson, and Kamara Mayberry of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. They did a great job in hosting. Okay, so check out that broadcast. Check out the panel discussion. We have it on our Facebook pages. And then now, one of the things that came up today in the panel discussion, and we did not get a chance to talk about this sister much, and I've talked about it here on the show before, is a sister by the name of Callie House. Okay, Callie House. And in 1898, they had in 1898, Callie House organized the first national convention of the Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pension Association. Okay, and this is one of the early attempts to get some type of reparations. We're going to talk about this on today's show also. Do you know about Callie House? This sister is a pioneer when it comes to repairing the damage of slavery, and understanding slavery is not just cash payments. It's not the black folks lotto. The first national, have you heard of the first national convention of the Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pension Association? Okay, we'll talk about that some on the show. Also today is Dr. W.B. Du Bois' birthday as well. Okay, so we'll probably talk about that on we'll probably talk about that some on Thursday's show. Okay, because it's been a busy day. And we ain't going past an hour today. It's been really busy. And I'm working on a presentation I have to give for a church on Saturday for Black History Month also. All right, now, the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct your own behavior, what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Be sure to register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. On Saturdays, it is ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 10-week online class that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. When we deal with our history, we can't start our history in slavery. We can't start in 1441 with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. We can't start in 1619 in Virginia. We can't start in 1526 with the Spanish taking Africans into the territory of South Carolina and Georgia. We go back to antiquity and deal with ancient Africa and deal with Ethiopia and Nubia and ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, things like this. And we go throughout history and we see what leads to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So this class is on sale, $80, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can watch it anytime. So a year from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. It's on sale, $80. Next class, Saturday, February 26, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have a bundle pack where you can register for both of the classes that I teach for only $120. Regularly, the classes are it's a $260 value. All right, let's jump into this here. So I want to look at this first article, and then we'll go to the interview on the other side of the break. So former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores claims he was offered money to keep quiet after firing. He said, Brian Flores said that Miami Dolphins team owner Stephen Ross offered him millions of dollars to keep quiet after he was fired in January. Now, he had 2 years left in his contract. He was fired. He walked away from that and left 2 years worth of salary on the table. He could have taken a non-disclosure agreement and been paid the rest of his contract and kept quiet. But as Brian Flores has been saying, and as he said today on the Black News Channel, this is bigger than him, and he is not doing this to just to get money. He actually wants to change the structure of the NFL. In his first interview since joining the Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff, Brian Flores, who is suing the Miami Dolphins, the NFL, and other teams alleging racial discrimination, told HBO Real Sports Brian Gumbel he refused to sign a non-disparagement agreement, NDA, a non-disparagement agreement, so he could speak out about his experience. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Okay, who still needs to register for the online classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? I'm going to post a link here. As soon as you register, you can start watching the content. You can watch the class we just did this past weekend. And you can join us in class on Saturday and Sunday. You can also use this information with your children as well. I would say the content is PG-13. Stand by. Okay, back from break in 3 minutes. How's everybody doing? Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, we're going to clip one here in just a second, Shakita, from the Black News Channel. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about this story dealing with Brian Flores, former head coach of the NFL, who is suing. He's suing the NFL. He has a discrimination lawsuit against the NFL. And if we look, just for a little background information here, we've been talking about this case here on the show. We talked about it during the Super Bowl, actually. That was part of our Super Bowl show. NFL's racism is overshadowing the Super Bowl. NFL's racism problem is overshadowing the Super Bowl. And as I've said before, I haven't watched the NFL game since Colin Kaepernick left the league, including the Super Bowl. Okay, I don't watch any of that. Now, Brian Flores sues NFL claiming bias in coaching search. Now, this is from the New York Times from February 1st, 2022. This is just a little background information on his lawsuit. Brian Flores, who was fired as coach of the Miami Dolphins, in January, was rejected for new jobs with other clubs. He has sued the NFL and its 32 teams, alleging that they have discriminated against him and other African American coaches in their hiring practices. His filing in federal court comes just days after the New York Giants, one of the teams he interviewed with, for a position named Brian Daboll, Daboll, who is white, as their head coach. Brian Flores cited text messages he said were sent by his former boss, New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick. And in the messages, Belichick appears to congratulate Brian Flores for winning the Giants' job as head coach, which he had yet to interview for at that point. The interview was coming up in 3 days. Brian Flores responding back asking if Bill Belichick had intended the message for Brian Daboll, who interviewed before Brian Flores was scheduled to interview for the position. The respondent answered by text message, "I think they are naming Daboll. I'm sorry about that, BB," for Brian Belichick. A New York Giants spokesman, Pat Hanlon, said in a statement the team was, quote, confident with the process that resulted in the hiring of Brian Daboll, and that Brian Flores was in the conversation to be our head coach until the 11th hour. A Patriot spokesman said he did not anticipate that the team would be issuing a response at the time. Okay. Now, let me see something here. Okay, let's go back to the article here from CNN. Okay, let's go back to the article from CNN from today. So Brian Flores' attorneys, Doug Wigder and John Lefterakis, joined him on the show on HBO, Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Brian Flores said, "I think just signing that separation agreement would have really silenced me. I think just signing that separation agreement really would have silenced me." When asked by Byron Gumbel how much money he left on the table by not signing the agreement, Brian Flores said a lot. His attorney, John Lefterakis, said it was millions of dollars. It was millions of dollars. Okay, now, Bryant Gumbel. Now, in a statement to CNN, the Miami Dolphins denied Brian Flores' claims. Quote, this latest assertion by Brian Flores that Steve Ross mentioned, owner of the Miami Dolphins, that Steve Ross mentioned an NDA to him is categorically false. This just did not happen. And we simply cannot understand why Brian continues this pattern of making unfounded statements that he knows are untrue. Okay, this is a statement from the Miami Dolphins. Quote, we are fully cooperating with the NFL investigation and look forward to all of the facts coming out, which we are confident will prove that his claims are false and defamatory, end quote. Now, Brian Flores' lawyers responded to the Miami Dolphins on Twitter by posting images of what his attorneys say is the non-disparagement agreement in question. Now, the interview that he did with Brian Gumbel is the latest salvo in Brian Flores' legal battle with the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants, and the Denver Broncos, the three teams specifically named in the lawsuit over allegations of racial discrimination. Now, I want to go to this segment here from the Black News Channel today. You're going to hear Tashani Whitlow and Kelly Wright, I should say. Kelly Wright did a exclusive interview with Brian Flores that aired today on the Black News Channel. Let's go to this clip, Shakita.
Following since it dropped, the NFL alleging racism. You know who I'm talking about. And tonight we got him. NFL coach Brian Flores is telling his side of the story in his own words to BNC's very own Kelly Wright. Now Kelly's here. He joins us with a one-on-one interview. We're also joined by Anthony Amy, Double A, as I like to call him. We got the latest developments coming out of this lawsuit. Kelly, what a great get. Congratulations. Tell us more about this interview.
Thank you. Well, it's a bombshell of an interview in terms of the power that Brian Flores speaks with and his passion and commitment to it. I want to play an excerpt for you right now of him talking about the personal cost that this case has caused him to have with his family and, of course, with friends and people who have been close by his side. Take a listen to this. Brian, what you're personally going through, how does this impact you and your family, knowing that you have placed your career on the line in order to stand up for African-American coaches who are talented enough, capable enough, and as you stated, gifted enough to serve in the NFL as a head coach in any of the organizations that are seeking to employ head coaches?
Well, I would say it's not just limited to head coaches and executives in the National Football League. This is across all industries. As far as my family, I've got an extremely supportive wife and 3 beautiful children. And this has been hard on us. It really has. From, getting fired to filing a lawsuit to, not getting one of the open head coaching positions. This has been hard. We're excited to go to Pittsburgh and have that opportunity. But I've had a lot of conversations with my 9 and 8-year-old about race these last 2 or 3 weeks, trying to get them to understand that some things are unfair in this country for Black and brown people. And that's something that's hard for young kids to wrap their heads around. But I know that we filed a lawsuit and we're fighting this fight for them. For kids who are 9 and 8, and I don't want them to be limited to thinking they just have to be players, that they can be coaches, that they can be executives, that they can be CEOs. That's why we filed a lawsuit. That's why we're that's important to me. And again, there's a lot of risk here. I understood that, but at the end of the day, I was gonna probably have more regrets than anything, and I wouldn't. I told my wife this. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if we didn't go through with this and allowed this to happen to generation after generation. I wouldn't be able to live myself.
All right. Let's pause it right there, Shakita. We're coming up on a break. Just back it up about 20 seconds or 30 seconds. He said he would not be able to live with himself if he just let this go on for generation after generation. Okay. So that was Brian Flores. That's an excerpt of the interview he did with Kelly Wright on the Black News Channel. We're coming up on a break. We're going to deal with this on the other side of the break. We'll also go to Yahoo News has an article. Yahoo Sports has an article dealing with this as well. Brian Flores said he declined to sign a non-disparagement agreement after being fired by the Miami Dolphins. Then there's also a piece from the CBS Sports. Let me see. Hold on. Which one is this? There's one from the CBS Sports about the Miami Dolphins also, and then this one here. Okay, we'll pull this one back up. All right, we'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Attention.
Stand by. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by, everybody.
An African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism means. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation. 910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so this story came out late Tuesday, and some more articles were written about it today. Brian Flores, who was fired by the Miami Dolphins in January, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, he alleges, and he did an interview on HBO with Brian Gump, and he also did one on the Black News channel that aired today. He alleges that he was offered money to sign a non-disparagement agreement. CNN has this article. Former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores claims he was offered money to keep quiet after firing. Yahoo News has one as well. CBS Sports has a piece that deals with the response from the Miami Dolphins also. If we go back to this, and we're going back to the interview, we're going back to the segment from the Black News channel. I'm about to send you this other clip also, Shakita. So Brian Flores' attorneys, Doug Wigder and John Eleftherakis, joined him on the show with Brian Gumble. And Brian Flores said, I think just signing the separation agreement would have really silenced me. Now, when asked by Brian Gumble how much money he left on the table by not signing the agreement, Brian Flores said a lot. And his attorney, John Eleftherakis, said it was millions of dollars. Now, in a statement to CNN, the Miami Dolphins denied this. They said Brian Flores keeps making these defamatory claims. They said we are fully cooperating with the NFL investigation and look forward to all of the facts coming out, which we are confident will prove that his claims are false and defamatory. Brian Flores' lawyers responded to the Dolphins on Twitter by posting images of what the attorneys say is the non-disparagement agreement in question. Okay, now Brian Flores also accused the New York Giants and the Denver Broncos of carrying out sham interviews in order to comply with the Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview at least two minority candidates for open head coaching jobs. Now, we know in just the past few days, Brian Flores was picked up by Pittsburgh Steelers as a assistant coach. And we know Mike Tomlin, who's African-American, is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Dolphins fired Brian Flores in January of 2022. At the end of the latest season, he went 24-25 in 3 years with the Dolphins, including a 9-8 record this season when Miami missed the playoffs. He has since been hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers as the team's senior defensive assistant linebackers coach under head coach Mike Tomlin. All right, I want to go back to this segment from the Black News Channel. Kelly Wright is talking about the interview that he did with Brian Flores. Let's go back to this clip, Shakita.
cause and change that he could create by not signing that NDA. And that is why we are calling on the commissioner, Roger Goodell of the NFL, to release people from their NDAs so they can talk. There are a lot of coaches out there and players who perhaps would like to talk and comment, those who are presently serving in the NFL.
All right,
and
hey,
they're
Shakita,
unable
do
to
me a
talk
favor.
because of these
Back
NDAs.
it up about 4 minutes. It was I had the volume muted over here. I had line 2 muted, channel 2 muted over here on the mixer, so people on social media can hear. Back it up about 4 minutes or so. Let's pick it up from. We'll go back to that. And just back it up about 4 minutes. We'll go back to that in just a second. So before the break, I was talking about his attorneys, Brian Flores' attorneys, who posted screenshots of the non-disparagement agreement that they said Brian Flores was sent. And this is a tweet here from Wigder Law on Twitter in response to the Dolphins calling Brian Flores' assertion of an NDA categorically false. Below are screenshots from the draft agreement and paint termination notice. If Brian Flores had signed this, he would have been gagged and unable to talk about his experience. Let's go back to the clip.
Of living up to their credo, and that is to inspire change, which is their new social justice platform, as you know. Inspire change, stop racism, Black Lives Matter. And to your point, Anthony, Doug Wigdor, who's one of the lead attorneys in representing Brian Flores, stated to me on camera, he says, hey, we're not going to pay you out for the last 2 years, talking about what the Miami Dolphins did. But then he goes on to say this, he didn't sign it, so he's not going to get that money. That's money that he left, millions of dollars. And that now, knowing that it wasn't about the money, this is something very key, and knowing that it was a greater cause and change that he could create by not signing that NDA. And that is why we are calling on the commissioner, Roger Goodell of the NFL, to release people from their NDAs so they can talk. There are a lot of coaches out there and players who perhaps would like to talk and comment. Those who are presently serving the NFL, and they're unable to talk because of these NDAs holding them bound and kind of like a gag on them.
Kelly, I also want to ask you a proof that Brian Flores says he has of his assertion that Stephen Ross offered him $100,000 per loss in 2019. Now, considering the proof he appears to have here, is there much doubt that he may have more to support that claim, more receipts?
Yeah, his attorneys are talking.
Okay, we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. Just back it up about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then we're going to go to clip 2. We'll let you hear more of that interview from the Black News Channel today. Brian Flores is saying he turned down money to keep quiet after being fired by the Miami Dolphins. He refused to sign a non-disparagement agreement. The Dolphins said the agreement doesn't exist. One of his attorneys posted on Twitter screenshots of the draft of the agreement. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, back from break in 4 minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, if you like this type of information, also you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We have the information towards the top of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And this is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael and shows my picture there. These other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Also register for the online classes I teach on the weekend. On Saturdays, it is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade. What they didn't teach you in school, I teach that on Saturdays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on Sundays, it is from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. So both classes on sale, $80, regularly $130. We have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $120. That's a $260 value. You can watch the classes anytime. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. So even a year from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. All right. I want to go back to this. Let's go back to this clip here from the Black News Channel, Shakita. This is about Brian Flores and saying he was offered money to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Let's go back to this clip.
Have the evidence, and they welcome the opportunity, should it go that far up the legal chain, and that they will present that when it's time to be called upon to do that. So that is something that is many people are watching and waiting to see if there's a smoking gun, what kind of evidence they have. But I do know his attorney is very thorough, and his other attorney is also very thorough, and they're doing their best to make sure that this case proceeds so that the NFL really addresses the issue. And we've heard from the NFL commissioner when this first broke, the NFL commissioner admitting just a day before the Super Bowl that there is a problem. There is a racial problem within the NFL, and that something has to be done about it. But some of the former players who actually boycotted the Super Bowl, and some former coaches, one of those players, Daniel Buggs, who will be on tonight, said, look, Roger Goodell has to stop talking the talk and start walking the walk, basically saying for the past 15 years, he's had an opportunity to do something about the problem, but has failed to do so.
All right. Kelly, AA, gentlemen, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it. Great conversation.
Okay, pause right there. All right, so that was from the Black News Channel. That was earlier today. Then they shared the full interview that Kelly Wright did with Brian Flores. Okay, we'll go to that in just a second. We're going to clip 2 in just a minute here, Shakita. If you go back to this article from Yahoo News. Okay, so let me go back to this here. All right, so we saw the tweet from one of Brian Flores' attorneys. The article goes on to say whether Stephen Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins, was the one who specifically mentioned the non-disparagement agreement or separation agreement to Brian Flores is unclear. The documents in the screenshot were signed by Dolphins Vice President Brandon Shore. The documents in the screenshot that one of Brian Flores' attorneys posted on Twitter was signed by Dolphins Vice President Brandon Shore. Brian Flores was fired after 3 seasons with the Miami Dolphins and was hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers last week as a senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach. The move came shortly after he filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, the Giants, and Denver Broncos, where he alleged racial discrimination in hiring processes, and that Miami Dolphins team owner Stephen Ross had offered him $100,000 per loss to tank the team for a higher draft pick in 20. The league, all 3 teams, and Stephen Ross have denied the allegations against the team. Let's go to clip 2, Shakita.
Dolphins, racism, and affecting change nationwide. Tonight, an exclusive interview. The new Pittsburgh Steelers senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach, Brian Flores. Good evening, and thank you for joining us this hour of The World Tonight. I'm Kelly Wright. The Hawk has the evening off. Well, it is a bombshell of a case dropped on the NFL, reverberating across the league and spilling over into American society. Earlier, I sat down with Brian Flores, to talk about his racial discrimination lawsuit against the NFL in his first cable news interview since landing the job. Brian, good of you to join us. I'm honored to have you on the program tonight here on BNC, the Black News Channel. Your statement to the world was a bombshell. And yet we begin this interview with celebrating. So let's start there with the positive aspect of all that's going on. In the midst of this, you are now a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Coach Mike Tomlin, of course, has greeted you with open arms, stating that you have all the credentials. You're the man who has what it takes.
Well, first, I'm just thank you for having us. Really appreciate you having us on here just to talk to you. And the situation with the Steelers, I'm very I feel fortunate. I feel humbled. It's a great opportunity with a great organization, great ownership. My conversations with Coach Tomlin have been great so far, and I'm looking forward to getting to Pittsburgh, and excited to work with the players, the coaches, the support staff, and all the people of Steel Nation.
You're here with your attorneys, and Doug, I have to ask you, in the midst of this hiring with the Pittsburgh Steelers, will the lawsuit proceed?
Absolutely. It's going to proceed. Nothing's really going to change at all, other than the fact that the damages calculation obviously will now be set in stone for Coach Flores, because obviously the damages will be the difference in what he was making as a head coach versus what he's making now. But other than that, we are going to continue moving forward. It's really the non-monetary changes that Coach Flores is trying to bring about. That's the most important thing here. That doesn't change either. The lack of representation of black coaches at all different levels still is abysmal, despite some recent efforts. And we're going to proceed with all due speed.
Brian, Doug once described you as being the Rosa Parks of the NFL. Is it?
All right. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes. We're out of time here on 910 a.m. WFDF. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online classes I teach on the weekend. Next class is Saturday, September 26, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. All right, stand by. Just a second. Let me disconnect this call here. All right, we're going to keep going. Let me cue this up. Hold on. Okay, it's the second one. Let's cue this up. We're going to continue with the this segment here.
Coach Tomlin have been great so far. Thank you for having us. Really appreciate you having us on here just to talk to you, and the situation with the Steelers. I'm very I feel fortunate, and I feel humbled. It's a great opportunity with a great organization, great ownership. My conversations with Coach Tomlin have been great so far, and I'm looking forward to getting to Pittsburgh, and excited to work with the players, the coaches, the support staff, and all the people of Steel Nation.
You're here with your attorneys, and Doug, I have to ask you, in the midst of this hiring with the Pittsburgh Steelers, will the lawsuit proceed?
Absolutely. It's going to proceed. Nothing's really going to change at all, other than the fact that the damages calculation obviously will now be set in stone for Coach Flores, because obviously the damages will be the difference in what he was making as a head coach versus what he's making now. But other than that, we are going to continue moving forward.
It's really the non-monetary changes that Coach Flores is trying to bring about. That's the most important thing here. That doesn't change either. The lack of representation of Black coaches at all different levels still is abysmal, despite some recent efforts. And we're going to proceed with all due speed.
Brian, Doug once described you as being the Rosa Parks of the NFL. Is it really that serious right now in terms of what you're trying to do to effectuate the changes in the hiring practices of Black, talented Black head coaches?
You know, I would never put myself in, you know, that class. I mean, Rosa Parks is an icon, you know, from a civil rights movement standpoint. But what I will say is, you know, the lack of representation of Black minorities, women in leadership positions in the National Football League. Look, the numbers speak for themselves. And I know that there are, you know, very qualified, intelligent leaders of color in the National Football League who can lead a team in executive roles and coaching roles and ownership roles. And it's simply not the case right now. I think discrimination is real in the National Football League. I really do. And it's time for change. And that's what the lawsuit's all about. This was bigger than money. This was bigger than me. This was bigger than football. And this message had to be put out there.
So let me just say this so we're clear, because we've asked Commissioner Goodell to waive the arbitration clause. But also, I want to be clear, and this is not unprecedented, none of these things. Other companies have done this. The NFL should waive all existing non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality agreements so people can speak freely without fear of reprisal from the NFL. We would ask the commissioner to do that immediately.
I need to ask you then, based on what you've just stated about the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, what do you think about him going out to hire the former Attorney General of the United States, Loretta Lynch, to proceed in defending the NFL against the case that you have launched against them?
I mean, I think there's always been two ways we could go about this. We could litigate it, you know, in the courts, which we're ready to do. And then the other way we could go is we could try to resolve this and really make change. And I think, as far as Ms. Lynch, obviously I have a great deal of respect for her, but, you know, I think we if she's here, you know, put in place to try to resolve this, then I think that's the right way to go. But we're ready to fight this thing all the way.
Johnson?
I actually echo Brian's sentiments completely. A great deal of respect for Ms. Lynch and what she's accomplished, being the first Black Attorney General of the United States. It's a tremendous accomplishment. But at the end of the day, I think she does find herself on the wrong side of history in this particular litigation. And my sincere hope is that she's coming into this with the exact sentiment that Brian just, indicated, which is that she recognizes that there's a problem in the NFL. She wants to do her part from within the organization and working alongside the organization to make the changes that are so desperately needed. But again, if she has come to fight this, if she has come to litigate this to the nth degree, we're absolutely prepared to do that.
And Doug, how do you see it? The first Black woman Attorney General coming into this case, in a case that's involving a very talented coach, an African-American man who wants justice. How do you see this?
Well, Kelly, you'll remember my former partner, may he rest in peace, Ken Thompson, went on to become the first Black district attorney in Kings County, Brooklyn. He and Loretta actually tried the case of Abner Louima, who had been sodomized, a Haitian immigrant here in Brooklyn. And Ken gave the opening statement in that case, and Loretta gave the closing argument. And so I've known Loretta. I've known her through Ken. I've known her through Zach Carter, who also was the U.S. attorney at that point, and other people. I have to say that when she, I hope that she's doing the right thing and she wants to create change, and that she'll do that, use her position and her stature to make sure that the NFL does that. But at the same token, when she joined the law firm of Paul Weiss, she joined a firm that defends companies accused of race discrimination, and she's done that before. And she joined a firm that defends people who are accused of sexual assault and/or rape. So, that was a decision that she made. I agree with Johnson that she would be on the wrong side of history, and it would definitely change, I think, how she's viewed in her career if she were to then defend the NFL and litigate this. But our collective sincere hope and desire, frankly, is that she wants to work with us, not against us, in an effort to make this real change. And then she will look great, I think, doing that, rightfully so. And all of the things that we're talking about would not happen.
All right. So check that out. That's from the Black News Channel on their YouTube channel. That is from February 23rd. Brian Flores talks to BNC about racial discrimination versus NFL. Okay. All right, so I want to get to this next story here quickly because it's been a busy day, and I still have a presentation to do. I have 2 classes to teach this weekend, and I have a presentation to do on Saturday. I have a class on Saturday, presentation to do Saturday morning, then a class on Sunday, and a radio show Sunday night. Okay, so in the panel discussion I was on today for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, my sisters, it was a reparations panel discussion, and I posted the flyer on our Facebook fan page. I posted it there in my Facebook page, but also on my website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So you've heard me talking about this panel discussion. So it took place today. It was a really good discussion, and it was dealing with reparations and what reparations is, how to move the reparations issue forward, things like this. Now, one of the topics that came up today was a sister named Callie, sister named Callie House. Okay, and we've talked about Callie House here on the show before. 1898, November 28th, 1898, you had the First National Convention of the Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association. All right. And we've talked about this here before, and Callie House is a pioneer when it comes to reparations, dealing with repairing the damage of slavery. Now, the first annual convention of the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association was held in Nashville, Tennessee, from November 28th through December 1st, 1898. November 28th through December 1st, 1898. The Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association was founded with a dual mission to organize mutual aid for its members and to pass federal pension legislation that would compensate every formerly enslaved person. Okay, they had a dual mission to organize mutual aid for its members and to pass federal pension legislation that would compensate every formerly enslaved person, or what people would call reparations. Now, the convention elected Callie House, Callie, a formerly enslaved woman from Tennessee, to be an assistant secretary for the association. Callie House became its leader for the next 20 years. This is Callie House. Callie House explained the political goals of the organization, of the Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association. She said if the government had the right to free us, she had a right to make some provisions or some provision for us. And since she did not make it soon after emancipation, she ought to make it right now. If the government had the right to free us, she had a right to make some provision for us. And since she did not make it soon after emancipation, she ought to make it now. Now, there was a podcast called Callie House, Reparations, Advocate, and Trailblazing. And Professors Mary Frances Berry and Tiffany Patterson described how Callie House defied societal conventions and led the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association, one of the largest grassroots movements in African American history. Have you heard of this organization? The National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association. Now, Callie House tirelessly traveled the country organizing newly freed African Americans in the quest to right the wrongs of slavery. Now, soon after its founding, the association and Callie House were plagued by legal harassment stemming from the government's false claims of fraud. Behind the scenes, government officials worried that the pension movement, quote, is setting the Negroes wild. The government officials worried that the pension movement is setting the Negroes wild, making anarchists out of them. Okay, now here is a flyer for the Ex-Slave Mutual Relief and Pension Association. Remember, like I've said before, after slavery ended, we weren't still calling ourselves slaves or descendants of slaves or things like this. They were ex-slaves, they were former slaves, they were freedmen, things like this. Why we keep trying to put our ancestors back into a condition they were freed from, and many of them took up arms to free themselves from, because you had 200,000 of them that fought in the Civil War. Close to 200,000, between 168,000 and 200,000 fought in the Civil War fighting for their freedom. This flyer says Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association of the United States of America. This is L.H. Dickerson and Miss Callie House. To all local, let's see if we can zoom in on this here. Okay, this at the bottom of the flyer or the handbill. I mean, you probably can't see, maybe see this or not. See if I can zoom in on this. But at the bottom here it says, to all local ex-slave associations in the United States, we come greeting as general manager and promoter of the movement, which has had so much opposition and more combats in its own circle than any other organization of the present day. More combats in its own circle than any other organization of the present day. Now, after organizing, hold on, let me scroll down here. Where do we leave off? Okay. Now, after 20 years of organizing formerly enslaved people all across the South, sending countless petitions to the U.S. Congress, and even suing the United States government for reparations. So when people out today suing the U.S. for reparations, they act like they're doing something new. And even suing the U.S. government for reparations. Callie House was jailed on trumped up charges of mail fraud. Okay. Now, tweet here, Ursula Wolf Rocca tweeted in 1916, Black reparations activist Callie House was charged with obtaining money or property by false or fraudulent pretenses, by placing or causing to be placed any letter in any post office. The penalty was $1,000 imprisonment for up to 5 years or both. The penalty was $1,000 imprisonment for up to 5 years or both. Okay. All right. So, read more about Callie House, and there was another piece on her as well that I saw. So when we talk about African, we have these discussions and African American History Month, Black History Month, things like this. Callie House usually is not somebody's name who comes up. We may talk about Frederick Douglass, and we should, but they usually don't talk about Callie House. There was so blackpast.org has a piece on Callie House, because I was looking at this earlier today. And then this advocate. There was New York Amsterdam News has a article on Callie House also about her. Oh, Herb Boyd, my man. I know Herb Boyd from Detroit, author and historian. So Herb Boyd has this article here for the New York Amsterdam News. The indomitable Callie House, reparations pioneer, from April 16th, 2015. Okay, so you can check this one out here. He talks about Reverend Isaiah Dickerson. So she began her march toward the pages of history in the late 1890s after reading a pamphlet titled Freedmen's Pension Bill, A Plea for American Freedmen, then circulating around the Black communities in central Tennessee. This pamphlet, which espoused the idea of financial compensation as a means of rectifying past exploitation of slavery, persuaded Callie House to become involved in the cause, according to a citation from the website blackpast.org, which has a lot of really good information there. Blackpast.org. Subsequently, she and the Reverend Isaiah Dickerson traveled across the ex-slave states, announcing their plan for restitution for Black captives or former slaves whose labor had been stolen from them, and recruiting followers. By the summer of 1897, their organization was formally established with a charter and titled the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty, and Pension Association. For the most part, they delivered their plan in front of church congregations where they were warmly received. Quote, "We are organizing ourselves together as a race of people who feels they have been wronged," end quote, Callie House declared upon co-founding the organization. Now, the organization shaped its plan in conformity with an existing one for pensions allocated to ex-soldiers of the Union Army. They also targeted the funds accumulated from the millions of dollars obtained in taxes from seized Confederate cotton. Okay. The millions of dollars in taxes obtained in taxes from seized Confederate cotton. it was a stroke of genius that never truly materialized. Okay, so check out the rest of this here on Callie House from the AmsterdamNews.com, New York Amsterdam News. And then also blackpast.org has an article on Callie House also. This one right here. Okay, so this one right here on Callie House, 1861 to 1928. Okay, so Callie House is most famous for her efforts to gain reparations for former slaves and is regarded as the early leader of the reparations movement among African American political activists. Callie Guy House was born a slave in Rutherford Country near Nashville, Tennessee. Her date of birth is usually assumed to be 1861, but due to the lack of birth records of slaves, this date is not certain. She was raised in a household that included her widowed mother, sister, and her sister's husband. Received some primary school education. All right, now in 1891, a pamphlet entitled Freedmen's Pension Bill, a plea for American freedmen, began circulating around the Black communities in central Tennessee. This pamphlet, which espoused the idea of financial compensation as a means of rectifying past exploitation of slavery, persuaded Callie House to become involved in the cause that would become her life's work. With her help, the Reverend Isaiah Dickerson, Callie House chartered the National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief Bounty and Pension Association in 1898, and she was named the secretary of this new organization. Eventually, Callie House became the leader of the organization. In this position, she traveled across the South, spreading the idea of reparations in every former slave state with relentless zeal. During her 1897-1899 lecture tour, the association's membership by 34,000, mainly through her efforts. The association grew. During her 1897-1899 lecture tour, the association's membership increased by 34,000, mainly through her efforts. By 1900, it's the nationwide membership was estimated to be around 300,000. Okay, so once again, Callie House is not somebody that we hear about. Okay, they had a membership of approximately 300,000 people by 1900. This is before the NAACP was founded. They weren't founded until 1909. Callie House's activism was not without controversy. Newspapers of the time often ridiculed her efforts, and the federal government attempted to arrest her and other leaders of the association. In 1916, U.S. Postmaster General A.S. Burson sought indictments against leaders of the association, claiming they obtained money from ex-slaves by fraudulent flyers, proclaiming that pensions and reparations were forthcoming. Now, Callie House was convicted and served time in the Jefferson City, Missouri penitentiary from November 1917 to August 1918. Callie House died from cancer in Nashville, Tennessee on June 6, 1928 at the age of 67. Okay, so read more about Callie House at blackpast.org. All right, look, hey, if you like this type of information, you support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me /the AHN show, paypal.me /the AHN show. We also have the information on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Be sure to register for the online classes that I teach on the weekend. This helps, and all the support helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting 5-6 days a week. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have the information here for the online class on Saturdays. Is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So the class is on sale, $80, regularly $130. As soon as you register, you can watch the class we did this past weekend. You'll be ready to join us in class this Saturday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. Even a year from now, you can go back and watch the entire class. We deal with the ancient African presence in the Americas. We deal with ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, Nubia, Ta-Nehisi, Ethiopia, Ghana, Songhai, Mali, the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Then on Sunday, I teach a second class. We look at history from 1803 through 1968, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. Okay, so if you want to register for both classes, we have a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $120. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, and I've been teaching online history classes since 2017. If you've taken any of my online classes in the past, email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com, ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. You'll get a 50% discount on the classes. Okay. All right. You can use these with your children also. I would say the content is PG-13. It's not overly gory or overly graphic or things like this. All right. I don't do a lot of cursing, etc. Okay, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.